G'day everybody, I'm Patrick. Welcome to the workshop. Today we're talking about extraction, how you can make it better, and I'll give you a mini tour of what I use in this workshop. I'm going to give you 10 tips that will help you improve your extraction and talk through some of the decisions I've made here. Let's start with a really quick overview of the extraction system that I'm currently using. So this workshop I am renting and sort of sharing with a friend of mine. In my previous workshop I had a big Sherwood double bag unit. They don't really sell them anymore. Most of the units now have a cyclonic system, and that more resembles what is in this workshop that I moved into. This system is essentially handmade. It has a big motor at the top, a big cyclone here which dumps into a plywood bucket. So that lifts up, the plywood box slides out, and two big long double pleated filters there. The cyclonic system means that only the really super fine dust goes through to the filters, if any at all, and the rest just fills up this plywood bucket. It seems to work fine. Emptying the plywood bucket is annoying. It would be better to have a system that had a plastic bag, but currently this is what we're working with. We may improve it in the future. Okay, so the entire system is based on 150mm PVC pipe, sometimes called drain, waste and vent or sewer pipe. They're slightly different things, but they're similar enough. All of these branches are 45 degrees, not 90. So if we needed to do a full inversion, we're doing 45 and another 45. There's 150mm flexible polyurethane coming straight into every tool. Some of the tools get split off with these splitters. There's a variety of them, going down to 100mm PVC or polyurethane flex. This PVC goes the whole way across the shop to the panel saw and also to the jointer and the thicknesser. The reason that I use PVC here and in the previous shop is it's inexpensive. It's really easy to put together by yourself. The fittings are readily available and it generally interfaces pretty well with the flexible polyurethane tubing and any other fittings that you might need. It's just a lot cheaper than putting together a big gal system, like a professional galvanized system. Basically every tool has its own blast gate. I'm using the iVac system automated blast gates. I fit them onto the 150mm tube, and when a machine turns on, that blast gate opens and every other blast gate remains closed. Okay, that's essentially the layout of the system. I'm going to give you my 10 tips now to hopefully improve your system and things that have helped me along the way. I'm going to start with the simplest things, perhaps the smallest things, and then move up to the biggest, most important things at the end. Number 1, tape or seal the joins. This seems obvious, it doesn't need to be fancy, but tape every place that you have PVC joining onto other PVC. If you're losing a tiny bit of air, 2%, 5% at each join, across the whole system, that's huge. That's a massive loss of pressure. Tape those joints, it's easy. Look, I'm not going to win any awards here for how beautiful this system is, but it works. My second really easy tip is to use these tool-free winder clamps. They come in a variety of sizes. You just turn them and you can disconnect your hose. This means that if you need to take anything off to clean it, it's really simple. You don't need to grab the screwdriver and you're more likely to just pull it off and put it back on again. They're inexpensive, put them on everything. It just works. Okay, my third tip is if you have some sort of extraction system that doesn't have an automatic on-off, you can use powered remote controls. The ones I'm using currently are from IKEA. I've used the Arlec ones before. It doesn't really matter what they are, just find one that works for you. That means that instead of having to reach to the extractor to turn it on, when I'm using, for instance, the router table here, I can just press this button. These are magnetic, you can put them anywhere, they're fairly inexpensive. You can run shop vacs or any other extraction system you need. I also run fans off them. You can place them right next to wherever you're working, you can carry them with you, they're fantastic. My fourth tip is to minimize flex tube. Wherever possible, use a smooth walled tube like PVC and then just keep the flex runs exactly where you need them. Flex because of the ridges introduce a lot more friction into the system. That friction will slow down the airflow and overall will reduce the effectiveness of the system. So obviously we need flex in places, but don't run your entire system on flex. It'll just slow it right down. Tip number 5, I kind of mentioned earlier, but use smooth junctions. If you need to go 90 degrees, use a 45 and a 45, or a big sweeping bend. That reduces friction in the system, which keeps the airflow really high, reduces any kind of turbulence as much as possible, and will just keep the system working more effectively. It will also reduce the likelihood of longer pieces getting stuck in certain bends by making those bends long and sweeping. So up here, we needed to do a 90, so we used a 45 and a 45. This whole system uses 45 and 45 everywhere. Tip number 6 is very machine specific. I use Kaizen Foam to improve the efficiency of the dust collection at each machine. I've made a whole video on this, you can look back on it. If we open up the bandsaw here, this foam piece, which I cut out myself, fits underneath the table and reduces the places that air escapes from this system, which means that all of the suction is directed to exactly where I need it, which is that little throat hole around the blade. I also use the Kaizen Foam in my miter station to help direct the air. You might not be able to see it very well, but it's created a curved wall at the back here. You can cut it out around cords and tubes. You can pull it in and out really easily. It's inexpensive, easy to cut, and you can make the extraction on your machines way more effective by using it. My tip number 6 is to use fans wherever possible. This workshop has a giant roller door. My last workshop had a giant roller door. I like to keep that open most of the time. I don't often open it when I'm filming. Whenever I'm working, that door is open. This means that if I can blow dust, any super fine airborne dust, out of the workshop, I don't need to have air scrubbers in here running all the time. These things are more effective and they can push way more air way more quickly. I've mounted one under my workbench here, another one at the other end here, and that forms a wind tunnel that pumps it straight out the door. There's another fan up the top here, which I can point towards the roller door to increase the airflow as well. Those fans are all on remotes, so I don't have to go to the fan to turn them on. I can keep that remote in my pocket or keep it near a machine that I'm working on, so I can just press the remote and blow all the air out of the workshop. It'll change all of the air in the workshop probably within, I don't know, maybe a minute or two. So if you're doing super dusty work that you can't extract well, use a lot of fans. Tip number 8, perhaps one of the trickier ones, but it is really important, is really think about layout and proximity to the extractor if you can. Basically, the machines that are really close to the extractor will get way better extraction than the machines that are far away. Now, it's not always possible to cluster your most extraction hungry machines near the extractor, but wherever possible, that would be ideal. This drum sander pumps out a ton of fine dust, so it is one of the closest machines to the extractor. The other machines that are on this wall here is the saw stop and the bandsaw. In the center, we have the thicknesser and the jointer. In a perfect world, I would want them closer to the extractor. I think because of this distance, in this workshop, the thicknesser does not extract as well as it did in my previous workshop, where it lived right next to the extractor. But I can't change the entire layout unless I put in multiple extractors everywhere, and we'll talk about that later. The panel saw or a table saw is also a really difficult machine to extract from, so ideally you're leaving that as close to the extractor as possible. There's a temptation to put the extractor outside or put it in a far distant corner of the workshop, but really as close to the machine as possible would be really useful. In a perfect world, obviously you work with the limitations of your workshop, you can't always make it perfect, and this system is absolutely not perfect. It's pretty functional right now though. Tip number 9 is blast gates. Now I did mention this right at the start, but this whole system uses iVac blast gates. Essentially every machine has a trigger connected to its power lead. When power runs through this lead, it turns it on. And what that does is open the gate here, and it also turns on the extractor at the same time. What this means is that all of that suction is coming to one machine. You can use a smaller extraction system more effectively and get less dust in the air. Now, these triggers are expensive. The smaller ones for 100mm PVC or 100mm pipe are much, much less expensive, but the 150mm ones are pricey. However, in my shop, it stops me running back and forth and closing manual blast gates. That being said, you can absolutely use manual blast gates. I used them for many years. If your shop is small and it's easy to get between machines, then manual blast gates work just as well. You just need to, keep them closed whenever possible. This system has one manual blast gate. It's up here. Manual blast gates are really inexpensive, and if you do not want to put automatic ones in right now, or just kind of don't want to put the money towards it at this moment, then manual ones are absolutely worth putting in. There's no point trying to suck air from every single machine at one time. You're just kind of going to do a poor job of extraction at every machine. Number 10, this is one of the most important tips and something that I've learned as I've gone along. Don't try and extract every tool with the same extractor. I'll give you an example. This router table is extracted with a DC50 up here. This is a small extraction unit from Timbecon. I use them from a few machines. The DC50 works wonderfully for a router table, and it means that I'm not adding pipe and adding expensive blast gates into my system and potentially reducing the effectiveness of the entire system for a machine that can be really easily serviced by a smaller extractor. So the router table is on its own DC50. The bobbin sander has its own DC50, and also the miter saw over here has its own DC50 and a shop vac. Miter saws are notoriously difficult to extract from because they produce a lot of really fast moving chips that fly in all directions. And I've found the most effective way to pull dust away from a miter saw is by using the inbuilt extraction nozzle, which usually is just designed to fit a shop vac, as well as creating some ambient extraction for the entire hood. So the DC50 pulls any lightweight chips out of the air in the entire hood, and the shop vac, which in this case is just a cheap Ryobi one, pulls air from that little tiny, whatever it is, 35mm dust chute that's built into almost all miter saws. The DC50, the small extraction unit here, just wasn't pulling enough volume to extract from this unit effectively by itself, and likewise the shop vac didn't catch the ambient chips within the hood. So together that works pretty well. In my old system, my drop saw was connected to the main extraction system and it worked pretty well, but there wasn't a sensible way of doing that here. Another example of a machine that is not hooked up to the system, this little disc sander has its own little Ryobi vac here connected to its dust port. It works perfectly. It pulls almost all the dust away from that disc. There's no point hooking it up to the main system. The only other machine that isn't really hooked up to the system at all is my small bandsaw that I use mainly for just shaping bits and pieces. So, big bandsaw connected to extraction. Small bandsaw, literally no extraction at all. Most of the time, this one is just doing shaping. It's got a really fine blade on it. I'd use it to do fine curves. I can kind of just vacuum up any dust that this creates. So right now, totally happy for it not to be extracted. Inevitably, in any workshop, you're going to get sawdust, but don't necessarily expect that you can put every single machine on the same extractor. Even in a small shop, you might be better off just extracting your table saw and then using a smaller unit or just a shop vac to do your miter saw and not necessarily keep them together. One last machine, which is not connected to extraction, but I did have some extraction in the old shop, is the drill press. This thing has been kind of moving around. It's on a wheeled dolly right now, and I think we have found the home where it's going to stay. But up until now, we've just been vacuuming underneath it, which isn't ideal. In the past, what I've done is a shop vac with a hose that's connected to an articulated arm, so I can kind of direct it wherever I need. A drill press needs really rapid suction, so it's more suited to a shop vac than it is a large dust extraction system. The chips that fly away from the drill bit or the Forstner bit are often traveling really fast, and so you need very powerful suction very close to that drill bit to catch it effectively. So a shop vac with an articulated arm works pretty well. Currently this is not set up to anything, and it usually just has sawdust everywhere. It's a bit of a weak point in the extraction system of this shop. One other thing in here that might be worth improving, but it's not critical, is both the table saw and the panel saw have an above and below extraction system. So they have some sort of hood up here and then an extraction hose that goes into the cabinet. We're not always using the hood on the panel saw and the table saw. There are certain jobs that the hood just gets in the way. It would be nice to have a little gate on the 100mm flex so that I could isolate that and cut off that suction that's coming to the hood and really direct all of the focus down below. Table saws, panel saws, notoriously difficult to extract from. They're just throwing chips sort of in all directions or fine sawdust. And even with a really powerful system, inevitably, you're going to end up with some sawdust on the floor. So my ultimate line of defense against sawdust that just settles places is just my air compressor. I turn on all the fans, I open the door, I blast every surface. I try and do that, I don't know, once a week or perhaps more often, depending on how hard I'm working and how much wood I'm cutting up, because inevitably there's still sawdust just, left on surfaces. This system isn't perfect. I would love to hear your comments. I'm sure you can suggest some improvements, but it's what we're using in a pretty busy professional shop, and it does its job most of the time. So I still wear a mask when I'm cutting a lot of timber, and like I said, I leave the roller door open, I leave the fans running, and I try and reduce my exposure to that really fine sawdust whenever possible. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know if there's anything in here that you think I can improve. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Everyone does this slightly differently. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. A bunch of these products you can buy at Timbecon, some you can't. There'll be links down below. And like I said, there's a few videos that I've already done on installing the Kaizen Foam and other bits and pieces, so you can have a look in our feed for them. Like the video if it's been useful. Don't forget to subscribe, it helps us out. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.